but also we need experts from around the world with different skill sets. So it's about bringing those together and actually then solving those big common problems that the community faces.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Bioinformatics Lab podcast. I'm Kevin Lipwitt with Andrew Page, and today we're talking hackathons. Andrew, we have one coming up in just a couple of months down at ASM NGS. What are your thoughts on the upcoming hackathon, and how's the organization going in terms of planning and logistics?
Yeah, it's going very well. This is the 10th Bioinformatics Hackathon. We've had them, got the first one, I think, was in Warwick, originally for MRC Climb. And then just every year we decided, hey, why not just have a hackathon, bring our community together, particularly around conferences like AB, PHM, ASM NGS, or IMAM, the main conferences in our fields. And like the last one was in Cambridge, just down the corner from where I live. And you were there as well, weren't you?
Yeah, that was a good
Yeah.
one, and we got a lot of time. That was like right at the cusps of a lot of AI discussions, and so a lot of us
Yeah.
were kind of hearing the murmurings about it. But it was cool to go into a hackathon and really start fiddling around with some of the tools, testing out the API, seeing the other open source resources around the at that time just very burgeoning community of AI resources. But even before we get into some of the details and past experiences, hackathon is a big word. And in government laboratories, sometimes they even like to avoid that use of hackathon just because the association of hacking. Yeah, that's a big thing, even especially with federal laboratories and things like that. But for maybe people who haven't had a background or experience in hackathons, can you give an overview of what is a hackathon? What can people expect when going into an event like this?
So the general idea is to bring together people out of their normal workday and working different problems that they would normally work on. And the things that we focus on usually are community problems. What is affecting us all, and we can't solve it ourselves. We need a group of people, but also we need experts from around the world with different skill sets. So it's about bringing those together and actually then solving those big common problems that the community faces, or at least trying to set people in the right direction. So when you walk into a hackathon, certainly the ones that I run, you'll have maybe say 30 people in a room. Generally, it's laid out usually in small groups, so you make square round tables. A few different people sit around the tables, and you get to interact with some really different scientists, with some really amazing scientists as well. And it's not just having people who are all bioinformaticians. It's about people who are skilled in different ways, maybe in public health or clinicians, or maybe they're on the front lines in microbiology labs, and they know a bit about informatics, but they want to know a bit more how to be integrated and guide things as it goes along. So that's the kind of basic layer. So when you walk into that room for the first time, the first things we do are basically brainstorm, So it's not like a fixed thing that fixed problems have to solve. Brainstorm on day one, the first few minutes, and write down what are the big challenges that we face every day in our lives. And it could be something as simple as, I don't know, hey, I don't want to reinvent this library for, looking at AMR genes. Maybe we come together and make a library that will actually go and pull in, like the 20 different output formats that AMR programs output. And then we can have one form, worry about not 20. And, small things like that, that really worry people or causes a lot of hassle. And so we brainstorm, we come up with some ideas, and then you can kind of free float between the ideas. Usually there'll be some more senior people who are designated as not administrators, mentors, and they will join each group and then kind of anchor it and help guide people. So you're not just stuck there on your own doing something that's new and novel and you don't really know what to do. You'll have someone who's experienced at hackathons helping to bring everyone together and helping that teamwork.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. And I think overall, like one of the major outcomes of hackathons is really just the community building and orientation towards major challenges. And like some hackathons, you'll see out of it comes like proper products like in terms of software or guidance documentation that goes on to live and have a life of its own. Sometimes not. Sometimes the projects kind of peter out afterwards the hackathon, but nonetheless, there's a lot of value in the community building and for either the senior scientists coming into those, getting that chance to mentor and help develop the field, but for sure for even more junior people, for earlier career scientists coming in to one build their network and then also see what it's like to maybe hack at a problem for a couple of days on with a collaborative group of people. And I think the one we did in Hingston was a really great one because that kind of highlights exactly what you meant or how you described it. Where in the very beginning, it was kind of it wasn't AI themed in general, but it was on everyone's mind. So I think we had a couple of different projects from like data standards to metagenomics workflows, and then some kind of conversation. I think I was a part of the guidance document conversation, and then everyone just sort of self-aggregated, like, what's the problem most pressing to you, and where do you feel like you can contribute to it? And then you, for 2 or 3 days, you got to work with 4 or 5 different people. Maybe even bigger than that. Maybe it was like 6 or 7 different people, all addressing that problem. So you went through that whole group project mindset, and you really got to spend some, significant amount of time diving into the nuances of those different problems. So that aspect of getting out of your day, your normal daily routine is really helpful. Because I've seen some done online to varying levels of success, but those in-person ones are really hard to replace in terms of the value of the community building and focus on a specific project.
Yeah, and so for the hackathon we have this time, actually, there's still spaces available. We're doing a virtual one and an in-person one. So obviously, visas are a big problem. Visas are a big problem for people from different parts of the world, and this will allow them to participate in some way. And that's Peter Van Hurston is going to be running that element of it, and hopefully we can kind of merge the two and have catch-ups between it too. So let's see how it goes because I've only ever done one or the other, never two together.
It's going to be interesting. I feel like there's some folks, actually, the micro bin feed ones that were done, I think, during the pandemic were all virtual, but there were some really successful ones. Actually, I remember not even participating in them live, but because they were recorded, there was a lot on like unit tests and GitHub automations that I was able to benefit from post hoc. So it'll be interesting. I think Peter's kind of leading a lot of the virtual components. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of coordination to make sure that we're a cohesive group of practitioners running through the hackathon there.
And so this time we're having it in it's called the High Regency in Bethesda. So Bethesda, if you don't know it, is like the center of genomics in the US. So it's got NCBI, it's got National Institutes of Health. So, huge, big medical thing there. And it's also the Walter Reed Army Hospital as well. So within that, one small city, really, you've got a huge number of competitions kind of just knocking around. So I'm sure you'll see people in Starbucks or whatever, who are the world leading bioinformaticians in their area. But so it's really cool. And it's only about 30 minutes then from the actual ASM NGS conference venue, which is quite handy. And the idea is basically for a few days beforehand, so 3 days beforehand, we have the hackathon and then it goes into the conference. So it just means that, if you have to travel from Australia or something, you don't have to just come to the US for 3 days. It's a huge trip. It's a lot of work just, logistically and traveling time. So that means that you make the most of it by bringing people together in a different way. And I can't wait. Actually, last time we had one in Bethesda was many years ago, and we had no budget or anything for it, so it was like literally just finding rooms in NIH, and it worked. One day we're in a teeny tiny little basement, next day we're in a boardroom, like massive, beautiful infrastructure, and it's like, yeah, we can just make it work. And actually, the best thing about that one was we all went out to a restaurant then for crab. I've never had American crab. Like you break it up to
Absolutely.
and whatever. Oh, it's amazing. And those are the memories in the networking that are worth so much.
That's a great part of it. Like I'm glad we're harking in on that too. Again, the technical dissemination of information is huge, but the community building is, to me, is even bigger. Because you're generally, I like the pattern of having hackathons associated with conferences, especially because we are already all traveling out for a specific meeting or event. And because there's so much, international travel, it really is nice whenever there's a hackathon to really get, the bang for the buck out of that huge flight, across the world often. But yeah, that community building is huge. I think that's often what makes it very much worth it. You can find a lot of the technical information online, but then taking that time out of your day, out of your work week, to work with these practitioners that we are, otherwise don't have that necessarily that chance or that intimate connection with. So, in your eyes, for people who are interested in this and maybe have never done a hackathon prior, what would you recommend for them in terms of what they expect or how to prepare for something like the ASM NGS Hackathon?
I guess it's not really something you prepare for. It's you just bring yourself, you bring your unique skills. And if know a bit about bioinformatics, microbiology, public health, these are the kind of skills we need, or clinicians. And it's if you can bring your ideas, so it's not solving things that are problems, like it's not solving doing your work for you. It's actually trying to solve things that are a problem for everyone. It might be, say, benchmarking data sets, which samples do you use to actually test something, or say modules, or maybe it's paper. Like, so last time I wrote a paper, I got AI to write a paper, on an editorial on the use of AI in microbial genomics research. And the AI did a great job. And then we got it published. And that was because, the editor journal was, the editor in chief was there at the conference, at the hackathon. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And so bang, 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 we went through the process and got out the door pretty quick. And yeah, why not? These are the things you can do when you have the right people in the room. And it also serves other purposes. So there's many people I know that have gotten jobs through basically the contacts they've made at hackathons. So, reinforces how you know people. So say I worked with Bill Freed Ali Khan, who is my co-host on the Mark Binfield podcast, and I met him in a hackathon, and it's those connections you build, and then I went on to work with him for many, many years, and it's those lifelong connections that you really strive to build and maintain, which are so important.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like coming in for people who are interested in this, who've never been to a hackathon, bring your curiosity and your willingness to collaborate. I really think is the only prep you need. And our field is kind of unique in that it is pretty accepting and inclusive and pretty collaborative. Because I've participated in hackathons like just like city hackathons in Richmond, where it was more hardened software tech, and it wasn't necessarily the same vibe, as we have in the micro Binfi world. So I think for folks who may be looking at a hackathon and thinking, on the fence, do I have the technical background? Am I going to get anything from this? Lean into it. Put an application in, and see what you can learn from it, because it's worthwhile to getting that exposure to the different practitioners in our field. And I think you'll quickly find that there's a sense of camaraderie across the microbial bioinformatics world that is very much accepting of the folks who are just interested in learning and collaborating to progress the field.
Absolutely. And this sounds like an advertisement, but actually, Theogen is hiring at the moment. So if you are interested in working with us, we're going to be hiring people over next year. Make sure you get in touch with us or anyone at Theogen, and we will absolutely consider your application. Or just even if you want to have a chat to see is it the right fit for you. We'd be glad to have that chat. We're always interested in talking to interesting people.
Absolutely. And Andrew, maybe before we close, how do people register for the ASM NGS Hackathon?
I put a link in the show notes.
All right, perfect. Anything else people should be anticipating before we end today's conversation? All right. So hackathon, incredible experiences, community building, technical understanding, all in one. And we got a big one coming up at ASM NGS in Bethesda, Maryland in October of 2024. So that's it for today. Cheers.